The world can be a cruel place just as it can be a beautiful one. And since the inventions of photography, technology has advanced so much that you can take high-quality images just by using your mobile phone. We can all enjoy the cute photos of funny cats and amazing artwork, but there are some images you wish you never saw. Photos that will haunt even the bravest of us. In this video, we will be exploring the dark and mysterious, classified images you were never meant to see, and learn about their backstories. Join us and hold your stomachs as we explore the World Wide Web and uncover secret and rare classified images that you really weren't supposed to see. Before we get into the video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Puzzled for more puzzling and mind-boggling content. The Beheaded Maori. The native tribal people of New Zealand, known as the Maori, had an odd tradition of respecting and celebrating their fallen. Long before Europe colonizers arrived in New Zealand, the native Maori people were preserving the severed heads of the fallen. Known as makamakai, the heads were chopped off, boiled, smoked, dried in the sun, and dipped in shark oil before ultimately being displayed and paraded around like trophies. But when the British had moved in during the 1840s, they soon had pillaged the makamakai heads for themselves. One notable collector of these severed heads was that of Major General Horatio Gordon Robley, who is the one featured in this creepy old classified picture with his collection of heads. He served in the British Army during the New Zealand Wars in the 1860s and was predominantly fascinated by the Maori and even stole at least a minimum of 35 heads just for himself. You can see the actual heads of the Maori tribe in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, where there lies a collection of 30 makamakai, or the severed, tattooed heads of Maori tribesmen. That may seem creepy and unsettling, heads of the deceased just used as decoration and trophies. But it gets worse. How about portraits of deceased children? The Victorian post-mortem portraits. Now I'm sure all of you watching this has some sort of family portrait or a single photo of yourself as a child, something to keep and remember and to show our offspring in the future. Right. Well, the life expectancies in the old Victorian England were catastrophically low due to the high frequency of diseases and the lack of effective medical treatment. This was also the time photography was extremely expensive. Therefore, most people were never able to get their portrait taken. This is why, sadly, when young children had passed away, their parents oftentimes dressed them in their finest clothes to sit for their first portrait that they were never able to take while they were alive, thus creating eerily lifelike portraits of children who had already been deceased for days. The image displayed on screen is of a child who had been lifeless for a few days, and the tradition was to make the body of the child seem full of life. Makeup and clothing were used to portray the child in a bright and lively state, when in reality, it was sadly far from the truth. I guess we should be more grateful for the ability to take pictures of our children without the need to spend extortionate amounts of money. What's worse than having to wait till your child sadly leaves the earth before affording a photo is having to sell your children just to make ends meet. 4 children for sale. In 1948, times were hard, and the employment rate was very low. Oftentimes, the men of the families had to look for work to provide for their families while the women nurtured and raised the children. There were many hard labor jobs, such as mining or factory work, and many times, there wasn't enough jobs to go around. This was the case for this particular family. This haunting photo from 1948 reveals just how much poverty can destroy a lovely family. Mr. and Mrs. Ray Chalafu were facing eviction from their Chicago apartment at the time and had desperately needed money. So the unemployed coal truck driver and his wife had reluctantly decided to sell their kids. Though members of the Chalafu family have all claimed that the mother was indeed paid to stage the image, it turns out the children were in fact sold to different homes within 2 years. What's even worse is that the children were all known to have been terribly abused and treated inhumanely by their new families thereafter. This must have been haunting for their parents. Speaking of haunting, ever heard of the 2005 horror film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose? Well, it was inspired by true events. Here's the real story. The exorcism of Annalise Mitchell. Annalise Mitchell was a sincere Catholic teenager living a normal life just like you and I, and was living with her parents in Germany during the late 60s. It wasn't long before she began blacking out at school before exhibiting increasingly strange behaviors, such as routinely convulsing, hallucinating, eating various bugs like spiders, and even drinking her own urine. It was believed that the young teenager was possessed by the devil, and her parents soon came to the same conclusion. They had eventually subjected her to 67 exorcisms, none of which had improved her condition. She later unfortunately died at the tender age of 23 to malnutrition in 1976. She weighed just barely 68 pounds, or just over 30 kilograms. It's sad to see someone lose their life over something we cannot simply explain. Sadly, there are others who had lost their lives where we wish we didn't know the true explanation of. Like the last moments of Regina K. Walters. In the 70s and 80s, truck stop killer Robert Ben Rhodes may have killed more than 50 women while driving commercial trucks, while traveling back and forth across America. However, perhaps his most chilling murder could be the one believed to be his last. Just before Rhodes murdered 14-year-old Regina K. Walters in an Illinois barn in early 1990, he had taken a series of photos of her trembling in fear as he moved in for the ultimate massacre. Authorities had later found this photo, believed to be the final moment of her life, and a collection of others like it inside the home of the killer, after he was finally caught several months later. It's sad seeing the images and knowing the horrific backstories. Some of these images may haunt people forever. Share this video if you want others to know about rare images with a scary backstory. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Help support us by smashing that like button and subscribing for more of the best puzzling content like this. Check out these videos on screen. Have a good day and see you soon.